Quartermaster here with a brand new edition of the vlog. Those of you that have been following me on Facebook, which I encourage everybody to do, just type in Imperious Quartermaster. I'm the only one there. It's a great way for me to interact with you. I post a lot more than I do necessarily with just the videos, and it's a great way to get to know me and I get to know you. Of course, also, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this channel, and do that little bell thingy so that you'll get notified when I come up with a new one. But today is a very special day because today I am interviewing Mr. Dominic Pace, who plays the character GEKKO on the brand new Disney Plus live-action Star Wars series, The Mandalorian. Now, I can't tell you how prolific this guy is as an actor, man. He's been working so hard for the last 20 years. I can almost guarantee that if you have any favorite TV show, he's been on at least one episode of it. And you probably know him best as Dom, the warehouse manager from Superstore. But his whole life is about to change, folks. It's been his lifelong dream as a Star Wars fan to be associated with the franchise. And that dream is about to be realized on November 12th, when the world gets to see him in The Mandalorian. Without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dominic Pace. All right. And now it is my very real pleasure to welcome Mr. Dominic Pace to the channel. Thank you for joining me today, Dominic.
Absolutely. Thank you to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having me, and happy to be here. Sorry, it's early.
Yeah, I know. First off, I'd like to say thank you as a Star Wars fan. In this day and age, so many actors seem put out with dealing with the public. If anything, trust me, folks, this guy is too accessible. True story. I spent the last week soliciting questions from fans all over Facebook, and Dominic, God bless him, a lot of times would just jump into the conversation and start answering questions right there in the thread. But I can't be mad at him for making me have to come up with my own questions, because the guy's just too nice.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. You know, look, I've been a character actor for 25 years, and I've been a Star Wars fan since I was 6 years old, all the way back to 1979. So I get the excitement, the enthusiasm from all the fans. For me, it's just such a priceless opportunity to be on the other side of the coin here, to where I can maybe perhaps touch somebody's life in a positive way. So in terms of the interaction, bring it on. It's just been such a pleasure to talk with fellow Star Wars fan cosplayers, people from all over the world that are just as excited and sharing my dream. I'm from New York, and a lot of times people aren't exactly rooting for you all the time. There's a lot of mental toughness there. And I can't tell you the outpouring of support I have received all over the world, not even just in California, not even from my friends, my family, but just all the support where people are genuinely excited for me. Just to have this featured bounty hunter in The Mandalorian is just beyond words. And I'm so excited to be sharing it with everybody, and also at the same time, hopefully to be able to pay it forward to a lot of charitable organizations and causes over the next couple of years throughout the world.
Well, hey, I know you blew the minds of the people in that thread the other day. I know, because they were IMing me about it. They were like, "Oh my God!"
Yeah,
I especially liked it when that one guy who apparently worked on the trailer for The Mandalorian jumped into my question thread and was like, "Well, Dom's going to get a letter from Disney because he's posting pictures of his character online." And I was like, "Well, Dom, you want to comment on that?"
Without question. Yeah, I think the biggest thing with NDAs is in terms of storyline. I think as far as once you are seen, I've been on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I've been on some major high-end production budgets. I think they're more than enthusiastic in regards to a performer being excited about their character. But once you're seen on screen, then everything is fine. I think the issue is, and I think what he got tied up is just in regards to talking about storyline, talking about anything that's negative or anything that's twisting or skewing the storyline or the brand. But as far as just genuine fan art and people being excited to have me in the show, there hasn't been any problem at all. Otherwise, I would have gotten a million calls from Disney the second I made the announcement.
Well, you handled it beautifully. I mean, you kind of fact-checked the guy, but you did it in such a nice way that I think you probably made another fan out of him. And
Oh,
that's
without question. I mean, that's the thing, and I think he understands. People are very protective over Star Wars, and for good
right.
reason. We're all passionate about it in different ways. But once people get to know me, and of course, I'm sure Disney has had a million eyes on me already. It's just about being a genuine fan and loving this franchise and the series so much, and just to be so honored and enthusiastic to be a part of it is all in good spirit there. So I think we're good to go. And again, if we're not, we've got 2 days to go, and I think they're going to have a lot more on their hands than dealing with a overly excited side character in the Mandalorian.
Yeah, well, we'll go ahead and give a shout out to Nathan. You know who you are. Good looking
Mm-hmm.
out for the franchise's interests.
Yes, there you go. There you go. Hi, Nathan.
Following up on that, you're known for playing tough guys, and yet every time I've spoken to you, you're like mega chill and gracious
Yeah,
with time and willingness to engage.
yeah.
What, I know this might sound like a trite question, but what's the source of your Zen? Where does this gentleness come from the
You know,
tough guy from New York?
I think the great thing is, and hopefully some advice for everybody, is to do what you love in life. I've been so fortunate to be surrounded around people that have been rooting for me, that love me, and I love them back. I care for them. I think ultimately, when you do what makes you happy, if you talk to me back during my survival jobs of the restaurant industry, you might have gotten a different Dominic. But also at the same time, one of the fun things, and I think we all have it in us as artists, is sort of this venom like storyline to where you're able to become your darker side within the imaginary world where it doesn't hurt people. The one thing I do have to avoid, I had a funny story. There was a series on TNT called Rosolian Isles that I had a small co-star in during the series premiere, and the casting director, I wanted to book this role in honor of my grandfather. He was just about to pass away, and she came to me and she was asking me in the audition room, how's everything going? And all of a sudden I was responding to her as nice Dominic. It was always very difficult for me during the interview process without doing the scene to not be nice. I never knew how to do that. I still don't after 25 years, even though I'm going in for sometimes a serial killer or a big bouncer or a guard. So what I try to do, and this is just for any actors as well, where you're going in for sinister roles and darker roles because you kind of have opposing figure about yourself, is just to limit the conversation and just go right into the scene. And when that happens, then more often than not, that's when I close the role. I've got an amazing guest star tomorrow night on Fox 911, where it's another tough guy fight promoter. So, it works for me, but I try to limit the friendliness when I'm in that casting room. But as far as in real life, and again, now having my childhood dream come true, expect for a lot more Mr. Rogers throughout the universe there.
Well, I mean, you get cast as heavy, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm a firm believer in playing to your strengths, and it's kept you working steady. I said in the intro, hey guys, if not only have you been on like Superstore as a recurring role, but I said if you watched any TV show in the last 20 years, I can almost guarantee that you've been on an episode of it. So I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
that's what's important.
Right, absolutely. It's been a lot of persistence, a lot of hard work. I'm what you call I like to call myself a blue collar actor, and that's why I'm so approachable to the fans because I might have a guest star for say $4,000 for one day. The next day, the one promise that I make to my family is there's not one day where I'm not trying to put food on the table. I'm not one of these diva actors. I get my hands dirty. I have a dear friend of mine who actually works just as much as an actor. His name is Franco Vega. He owns a moving company, and it's some of the most grueling work possible. But the one thing is it keeps you grounded, it keeps you humble, and it keeps you focused. So day in and day out, I just try to have that attitude and that mentality, and that's why you see almost 100 TV shows and films on my IMDb, just because of that mental toughness there.
Well, I mean, and you're right. Family does ground us. I mean, no matter how cool I might think I am, my wife will always remind me I didn't take the garbage out.
You better
The
believe it.
the prophet is not without honor except in his hometown. It's like I can't get any. It's like, hey, I worked all night. It's like,
Yeah,
nah, dude, go ahead and take out the garbage. But
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, I think it's really cool because it sounds like you have a method, but you're not such a method actor that it sounds like you have a good way of balancing, letting it go once the scene is done.
Yes,
And
yes.
that's hard to do in
Yeah.
so many different walks of life.
Yeah, there's sometimes, I won't lie. I just saw a film that I've just worked on for 5 years last night. It was premiering at the American Film Market, where they will definitely have a buyer, called Anonymous Killers. And I recommend this film to everybody. It's really an amazing sociological study. No matter where you stand in terms of politics and social issues, this is really going to be resonant in within everyone's mind. But that was one actually that really took me a little bit. And even yesterday, I needed to have. I'm not a drinker, but I needed to have a glass of wine afterwards, because sometimes it does stay with you for a little bit. I used to have an old acting teacher that said you take what's called an antidote. So it's not anything that's physical, but what you do is you hang out with good friends, or you go and see a happy movie, or you just hang out with my sons, who are just angels. I love these kids. They're 14 and 11. Dante and Bennett, they're just amazing. But yeah, I mean, just trying to stay around positive people, and of course all the social media now where everyone's rooting for me. That alone is my go-to. But thankfully, not too many deep, dark roles to where we go there. But when they do happen, it's nice to just kind of recover with a good group of friends or a nice movie.
Outstanding. I totally concur. So, Star Wars. Now,
Yeah.
have you ever been to Rancho Obi-Wan in San Francisco? They're not a
I
sponsor. Maybe they should be, but
I have not. I have not. I know my wife, she works at Paramount, and she had a friend over at Lucasfilm up there in Marin County, and there was always discussion that we were going to maybe go make a visit. I will tell you that we are going to do the celebratory Disneyland trip to Galaxy's Edge after we get those screenshots from the first and another episode as well. But no, I have not been up there, but I love the whole area. We were up there a few weeks ago watching the Dodgers and Giants.
whoa. I want to keep this on a positive note. Dodgers talk here, man. This is I bleed black and
Hey,
orange.
I,
So
it was actually an amazing game. I mean, it was an amazing day to go to the ballpark, because they were honoring Bruce Bochy. It was his last day managing.
yeah,
You couldn't see. I mean, you couldn't believe the outpouring of support. It didn't matter the season. Look, within the last decade, the Giants have 3 rings. So I mean, there's really nothing to hang your head about at all. The Dodgers, look at them, not since '88, and they've been striking out left and right. And we thought this was going to be the year, but it is what it is. But anyhow, I just have such a great time up there. Unfortunately, as an Italian, I gravitate towards the food, and San Francisco to me is probably one of the best places in the country to go for good food, without question.
yeah, no, that's great. I'm glad that I've been to a lot of different stadiums, and that for being where that stadium is in San Francisco, I've never had any problems even walking in from the parking lot. And everybody's in such a good mood, and the whole Giants Dodgers thing, that goes back to New York, and
Oh
it's
yeah,
it's a good rivalry. But you're right, it's whenever it's the Dodgers, man. It's
yeah, oh
first
yeah,
game I ever went to was Giants and Dodgers, and there was 3 fights that broke out in front of me, and I was like, oh, this is intense. But
yeah,
back to Star Wars.
yeah.
Uh, the whole Rancho Obi-Wan. The reason why I ask is, I they've got this diorama there that's like
Mm-hmm.
a diorama of a kid's Star Wars bedroom, like circa 1979. It's got the curtains, the bed sheets, all the toys. I swear it's like they time traveled back to my room in the late 70s, because I had all of that stuff. I know you had a similar childhood connection to the franchise.
Oh, without question, without question. I mean, these were our first toys. We didn't have social media. We didn't have a million different channels to choose from. I mean, Star Wars, George Lucas was so ahead of his time. So, I mean, it was just common for Gen Xers to spend an hour or two with, your Jabba the Hutt playset in 1983, or, the Millennium Falcon, which was one of
Oh
my
my God,
favorite toys.
yes. Yeah.
The Falcon, and it was just hours and hours of entertainment. And it's so funny because when my kids, it was kind of sad. The iPad already came out, and my kids were about 5 and 7. I wanted to go back because I remember we had the He-Man castle, and we had Mask, and we had GI Joes, and we had Star Wars figures. So I went and I got them a playset. I got them this big, castle and everything else. And we're literally not even less than an hour after Santa Claus came there. Literally, they were right on the iPad. So it's heartbreaking. It's not to say that we wouldn't be doing the same thing, but how
Right.
grateful are we that when we were playing, not only in our room but also outside with with our friends, we were playing just with a tennis ball, we could be entertained for hours. What an amazing time that we had the privilege of growing up in.
Yeah. I remember I was so enamored. I saw Star Wars at a drive-in, and then I saw it about 16 more times in the theaters. I would sneak in after every movie I went and saw. My parents would actually leave me there. Not good parenting, but they would leave me there for like 6 hours, knowing that I would sneak in and watch Star Wars at least twice. And I remember getting a Darth Vader costume for Halloween in 1977, and I wore that thing for like a year. Did you have a Star Wars costume when you were a kid?
Oh, sure. Well, for one of the Halloweens, absolutely. Yeah, I never was into cosplaying too much. But I remember, obviously I did this video of just a thank you to John Favreau and Dave Filoni, to where my mom was able to pull up some pictures of me as Darth Vader for one of the Halloweens. But for me, I was just all about the figures, all about the spaceships. I think I had the 73 original, 72 or so. And I still have most of them to this day. So,
Oh man.
yeah, it was just more about the collecting and, of course, just the magic of those movies that were just so ahead of its time. Specifically for me, people ask me all the time, what was my favorite? It was Empire Strikes Back, without question.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's hands down. I mean that the complexity in that movie yeah, it just anchored the whole franchise. On that note, did you have a favorite Star Wars toy? Sound like the
Uh,
Falcon might have been one of them.
yeah, well, the Falcon, without question, and again, my two favorite people ask me my favorite characters: Han Solo, just because I love Harrison Ford, his alpha and his charisma, and then in terms of the space galaxy, there, Boba Fett was just amazing.
Yes.
What kid did not love an action figure with a jetpack? I mean, it just, you
Oh
got to be, it pretty much took the cake. Not to mention the Slave One, which was so cool. It was such a
uh,
unique shape.
yeah, I never got the Slave One, but I don't remember what I traded to a friend of mine, but I traded something and I ended up with a full size Snaggletooth, with
Hmm.
the blue outfit. And let's get really geeky here.
Yes.
And that thing's worth about $300. It's a loose figure now. And then I
Yes.
got a very worn out Boba Fett. And
Yes.
I mean, I didn't care that his paint was faded, his joints were all loose. I wanted this guy so bad that before I got him, I took my Walrus Man. Remember Walrus Man?
Yeah.
I drew a Boba Fett visor on a chapstick cap, stuck it on his head, took a big pen cap, put it on his back with some rubber bands, and that was my Boba Fett. So,
but you touch on a great point, though. We used our imagination, and that's what George Lucas has inspired so many people to do, and that's why the series is so special. It's touched us in all different ways, and most importantly, that's the thing. People are sometimes they scratch their head at collectors 40 and 50 and older, whatever. But it's about those innocent childhood memories of our family being in our house and being with our grandparents that were alive, and just kind of just having a great time with our friends, but just all those memories of like you're explaining, you had those special memories as a child, and that's what when we look at them today, or we even maybe buy one today, it just kind of brings back those memories of innocence and the purism of childhood there.
yeah, sadly, I kick myself every time I go to a Comic Con or a sci-fi convention for this. But the summer before I went into high school, I decided I was too old and too cool for such things, and I staged one last battle outside where I murdered my entire collection with a pellet gun.
Oh no.
Oh, God, that was
Yeah.
stupid. And I've literally teared up
Yeah.
seeing going there and seeing people that got I had figures. I had the Jawa with the vinyl cape. Do you know how much that thing is worth?
Oh no, I'd never had that one. Wow.
Yes, yeah. I think I need therapy.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. I remember a store. It was called Caldor. It's kind of like a Walmart at that time in Ossining, New York, which is where I grew up. And I remember seeing this whole wall full of the original figures. And now you think about it, like each one, if it was just kept in the box, like $400 or $500 each. But they were like going for $2.50. My
Yep.
mom got each one of them for me. But yeah, great memories, and yeah, a moment of silence for those who unfortunately threw them. My mother's best friend's son, one of my dear friends growing up, he had it in a garbage bag and accidentally, unfortunately, the mother threw
Oh,
it out.
oh
There's
no.
also a legendary Star Wars story, which basically is the original Death Star. The model was apparently in a junkyard, and I think that got tossed as well.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So obviously, you know, Star Wars was a big part of your childhood. Did the movie make you have any impact on wanting to grow up to be an actor or?
Yeah, absolutely, without question. There's something moving about music. When some of the acting courses that I took throughout the course of my career, I was with Tim Robbins, the legendary Academy Award winner
No
Tim
kidding.
Robbins, in the Actors Gang. I was part of his theater group, but he was very much motivated by Ennio Morricone, who obviously did a tremendous amount of major swooping scores there. And also, one of my first acting teachers, she would play music beforehand. And I can't say enough about the power and the magic of John Williams that moves,
Oh,
it
yeah.
pulls at our heartstrings, it makes us emote. When you listen to Binary Sunset, if you have a heartbeat, there is no way that you are not going to be inspired by that sound. Also, I mean, you've got the Imperial March, you've got Yoda's theme in terms of believing in yourself and growing. It's not only that, but also the original trio, specifically Harrison Ford, but Hamill and Fisher, to where they had this sense of urgency, to where they brought this imaginary world to life. And yes, for me, that was the inspiration as to why I wanted to perform. I started my high school musical Grease when I was 16 years old, and don't get me wrong, the adrenaline rush was out the roof in terms of having a packed theater of 1,000 people. But ultimately, it was about the fantasy, about Goonies, E.T., Star Wars, Indiana Jones, movies like that, Back to the Future, that really inspired me. We are so lucky to have grown up in the 80s with these magical movie experiences that's what I wanted to do when I grew up. And that's why this week for me is so special, because basically, to me, and I've been saying this, and my fellow acting peers will think that I'm absolutely out of my mind, but an action figure to me would be similar to an Academy Award, because the initial reason why I wanted to become an actor was to join that fantasy world and to hopefully inspire a child and be part of that excitement the same way that those actors in the 80s were for me.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah.
Friend of the channel and all-around nice guy in Dark Lord of the Sith, Ciandro Nelson, played Darth Vader for about 12 years in various video games, as well as in the special edition and lots of ads and stuff. I did a short interview with him at the South City Comic Con a few months back, and unfortunately, as you saw earlier today, off scene, I'm not the most technologically adept person, and something went wrong, and I didn't get it. But
Yeah.
anyway, he tells the story that he was working at ILM doing VFX, if I remember right, and a coworker of his comes in and asks him how tall he is. Now he's a really tall guy, like 6'3" or so. And after the answer, she tells him, "Well, come with me." And he thinks he's going to go like get something off a shelf or something. The next thing he knows, they're putting a Darth Vader suit on him. Your transition into Star Wars was kind of similar, wasn't it?
Without question. Again, going back to just the status of being a blue collar actor, I take any job necessary. I have had agents that I've let go in the past to where I will get a major guest star on a major TV show, and they'll be like, "Oh, well, now we have to hold ourselves at this level. I don't want you taking anything lower. I don't want you going to do this or doing that or any featured parts." I was on Barry for 2 seasons. I didn't have any lines at all. I take every job possible. This is not one of these careers for me to where I'm sitting here trying to have any type of diva like air about myself. For me, it's just about, is there a job? Does it pay? Can I support my family? Yes, I'll do it. This was a simple makeup test with one of the most legendary makeup companies in Hollywood. It's called Legacy Effects. They work with Disney, Marvel. They've been around for many, many years. And I went in for a simple makeup test that was going to be about 6 to 7 hours. Now, I had previous experience. I was a photo double for Frankenstein on Van Helsing, opposite Hugh Jackman and one of my dear friends, Will Kemp, who played Wolfman in that movie. And then also, I was an orc on Bright. I actually got claustrophobic. When I put on the Frankenstein mask, I freaked out for about a minute. I was with the team from Legacy Effects. That day, as I got older, the prosthetics became more comforting to me. It did not make me feel paranoid or worried, and I wasn't antsy or nervous in the makeup chair. This gentleman who happened to take me on, he was named, his name is Brian Sipe, and Brian was the head of David Batista in terms of doing Drax for Guardians of the Galaxy. He built about, oh God, I want to say over the course of 3 to 4 appearances that Drax had, maybe over 100 molds for his body. The man is an absolute genius. He's one of the heads of Legacy Effects. I think he has his own makeup line. I didn't know any of this at the time. We just hit it off. I was very patient in his chair. Obviously, no phone, no ego whatsoever. And I was genuinely just talking about my love of sci-fi and, of course, Star Wars. And we were just going on and gushing about some of our favorite moments. There was no word of any kind in terms of what project this was going to be. It was a code name. I later found out, and 2 weeks later, called Huckleberry. But still, I just thought I was going in for perhaps when I was called in the second time for a screen test, I thought I was going in for perhaps a spinoff of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or something of that matter. It was not until the 2 weeks later that I go into a wardrobe room in a studio, Manhattan Beach Studios, to where all the doors were closed. There were code names on every door, just a tremendous amount of secrecy. That when I walked into the wardrobe room, any Star Wars fan would be able to relate that when they saw the pictures on the wall of possible wardrobe options. And I go into another room. I'm led by a couple of gentlemen. One, Richard A. Pora, who's an amazing costume designer. He's one of the head costume designers for Star Wars, I think, over their last couple of shows. And it said next to my name the words bounty hunter, and that was when my heart started pounding. I was actually with two other actors at the time, and it's funny because you're either a Star Wars fan or you're not. But for me, it was just one of the most amazing days of my life, and the rest is history. It's just the last year has just been an absolute dream.
That is so cool. I would love to play even a background extra on anything Star Wars, but they'd probably have to make me a human or put me in a helmet or something because I'm allergic to adhesives. I think I'd probably end up with dermatitis if they put a prosthetic on me like yours.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely a process. It's not fun to breathe in, but again, I mean, just to be a one of a kind, unique featured bounty hunter, just was obviously any Star Wars fan's dream, and here we are, just obviously less than a week away, and yeah, got definitely have my nerves because I think any Star Wars fan would understand that those screenshots for any Star Wars fan would be worth gold, and that's what we're waiting on, and hopefully we'll there'll be plenty over the episodes that I worked on.
Oh, I mean, your whole life trajectory has forever been altered by this, from now on. So you're old and gray. Nobody can ever take away from you the fact that you were in a Star Wars, I don't know, you can't say a movie, but you more than that. This is the
Yeah,
first live action Star Wars television show, and you're in the pilot. So I mean,
yeah.
you're going to be like Kevin Costner, in Bull Durham talking to the kids in the minor leagues. Yeah, when I got called up to the majors, it didn't matter. He was there for a week. It didn't matter. He was there for 3 days.
Yeah.
He was he made it to the show, and you've made it to the show. And I guarantee, I've been watching the love that you've been getting this last week.
Yeah.
That your life is about to change drastically. And on that note,
Yeah.
um, you know, we've got a mutual friend, Matthew Fraser,
Oh yes.
who happens to be a member of the Imperial Outlanders, like I am. I'm actually the California leader for the Outlanders,
Hmm.
and he's how I came to be connected with you for this. He uh, he brought you in as an honorary member,
Yeah.
and it blew my mind. I'm used to, like, when that happens, like, oh, welcome, and all of a sudden you start eyeing me back. I'm like, what the heck is going on here? I'm losing my mind. And
Hmm.
and that's when I knew that, this guy's got something special here,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the fandom is ready to embrace you. Now, everybody knows about the 501st and the Rebel Legion and the Mando Mercs, and you've been giving them, shouts out and stuff like that. But, how has being a part of the Imperial Outlanders, how has that affected you?
It's just been amazing. I mean, first of all, a dream come true. It's just starting right away. We've been invited over to London in a couple of weeks by Matthew. He's going to be my representative. I'm not exclusive with any agency, but Matthew understands that as well as my agents over here for conventions in America. But we're going in 2 weeks to go to London for the first time. I mean, what a dream come true. But most importantly, you bring up the Mandalorian Mercs and the 501st. The greatest thing for me to be able to do with this opportunity in terms of being a one of a kind bounty hunter and perhaps one of the small faces of bounty hunters in the Star Wars universe is to hopefully be able to make a difference. The great thing with the 501st and the Mandalorian Mercs is throughout their communities, they are making a positive difference. They're making a positive change. And for me, again, at 44 years old, I have, again, like I said, almost about 100 TV credits. Yeah, I could probably get another 100 over the next so many years. But for me, the value of life and the gift for me is not only the joy of meeting so many fans throughout the country and throughout the world, but to be able to make a difference. Matthew scheduled for me, along with a couple other team members over in London, a visit to a children's hospital. And if I can see a smile on a child's face who's going through a hard time just because he has the pleasure of meeting me, that to me is the best Christmas gift this year I could ever ask for. So for me, I can't tell you how much I'm excited to embrace this honor to be again a one of a kind bounty hunter in this universe, to be able to make a positive difference in the real world. I don't necessarily care about the career as much anymore as I get older. I have proved to myself. I remember there was a moment in Rudy, one of my favorite movies of all time, with Sean Astin and I believe The Rock. I forget his name. That was his nickname. But anyhow, he's like, "You have nothing left to prove. You got here. You did it." And that's kind of what I'm going through now. It's like, I made it to the top of the mountain so many times. Of course, I'm not an A-list name, but for me, the greatest pleasure I can have in life now is to be able to make a positive difference and to be able to bond with these Star Wars fans. And the reason I think it's so special is because when you talk about Star Wars fans, it's not only just the fandom about a specific movie, it's the fact that these people are genuinely enthusiastic about something in life. And those people in my life, even when I was a kid, that's who I always was able to gravitate to, because you're full of life, you're full of joy, and full of the joy that we can all celebrate together in terms of escapism through this amazing story that Lucas and his team have created. So to just be a part of that again is the greatest gift I can ask for. So I really look forward to an amazing future with Matthew and all the reps that will be hopefully sending me not only to the conventions but also a lot of charity causes as well.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons why I got involved with the Outlanders, because they, they really we really have a very strong connection with particularly the college. I think it's a University of London College Children's Hospital, I think is what it's called. And that's it's to me, like you said, it's all about the giving back. And you're also going to be here in NorCal on
That's
January
correct.
19th at Stockton
That,
Con, and I'm definitely going to be there.
yeah, and exciting news about that. That will be the first time that I'm offering, merchandise and also my autograph in America at the conventions in person. So I'm very excited to meet you and everybody up there. And that will be Sunday, January 19th of 2020. And very excited to meet everybody up there.
Yeah, and found it just coincidentally. C. Andrew Nelson, the guy I was telling you about, Darth Vader, he's going to be there, and he's actually very interested in meeting you.
Oh,
So,
I look forward
cool.
to it as well. Absolutely.
As I mentioned earlier, I've been out banging the drum and beating the bushes to get fans to submit questions for this interview, and I know we've only got a little bit of time left, but you ready to take some questions?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Especially from the fans. Really excited.
All right. Well, Dan Saunders asks, "What's your favorite memory of being on the set of The Mandalorian?"
If I can answer with two answers, number one, the first day after I got into makeup and got settled in, it was a 2 hour process for me to get ready before I headed to set. And again, it was just a really extensive makeup process and costumes and et cetera. I had about three layers. Two things. Number one, the first day that I was on set, and again, I wish I can take my mind and my body and put it in every Star Wars fan. I walk into a cantina setting, and just with his arms folded, just up against the bar, is none other than George Lucas. And
No kidding.
yeah, where we talk at this level, unfortunately, this is not a convention. This is not a fan meet and greet. This is not a time where you'll actually get thrown off set. I mean, it's happened before, unfortunately. When you're talking about $100+ million budget, these people are there to do a very serious job. But with that being said, at the same time, just to be amongst the presence of his universe and to be part of that on a professional level and to be there for whatever the major league team needs from me was just an honor in and of itself. And to hear him, I overheard him talk about the detailed stories of the Mandalorians with Favreau, and to me, that was just a priceless experience. Now, that does not overshadow this one opportunity that I think every Star Wars fan would agree with. The most amazing opportunity was, I think, any Star Wars fan would love to either pick out their lightsaber or to pick out their blaster. And I was one of the first bounty hunters to get to the table before we headed over to set. And I was presented with about 20 different blasters, and the prop guys were the coolest guys in the world. And every Star Wars fan's dream is to pick out your own blaster. So I got this one. I'm gonna hopefully do an instructional video maybe in about a week or two once I know that we're completely established with the episodes. But I got one with a paintball. It's like a semi-automatic with a paintball canister attached to the back and a curved dagger down by the mag. And it was the coolest thing. It must have been weighed about 8 pounds. We had 15, 16-hour days of shooting. But for me, again, I was just in my glory, just like any Star Wars fan would be, to have this character and to have this opportunity. I didn't even feel any pain, even through 10 days of filming, just because it was such an honor to pick out my own blaster and to carry that with me for those 2 weeks.
That is so cool, man.
Mm.
Robert Lucchese asks a three-parter.
Sure.
He thinks we have the time, but okay.
No, it's okay.
Can you reveal the name of your character? Will you be a recurring character on the show? And will you have an action figure? And I'll throw in there, are you going to have a Funko Pop?
Okay, so I can unfortunately only I can tell a really great story about the first part of that question. The first part is okay. So my Brian Sipe the makeup artist, he did a Greenpeace event, and he developed this amazing. I posted it publicly on my Facebook page. You can take a look at his amazing pictures. And it is a model, a female model that looks kind of like a gecko. It's got bumps on its head, and it's got the paint in the middle, the different color in the middle of its face. Brian wanted to give me the most extensive makeup job. And again, this took about 2 hours, but it was modeled off of that model. And that model was GEKKO. And that is the informal nickname. It is not official by Disney, but that is the informal nickname that a lot of fans have been going with, GEKKO the Bounty Hunter. As far as storyline with the other two questions, I cannot answer. What was the third question again that he had there? Oh, in terms of the figure. Yeah, so that is going to be subjective. I think what Disney pays attention to in every single Star Wars film is what is drawing attention. So the greatest thing that fans could do with the illustrations that so many of my friends have made and the sculptures, and even a friend of mine from Ohio created a Funko Pop, is to hashtag, and to tag Funko Pop and Hasbro and let them know, hey, we want this 6'4" bounty hunter. I don't know if they already have plans to go ahead with it. This is the first time that Star Wars is doing a series. So similar to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., as opposed to just going ahead, if it was the episode 9 or episode 10, where you just know that you would be a figure, there is 8 hours potentially. I'm not sure how long every episode is. It could be 40 minutes to an hour. But there's potentially 8 hours of footage, and I don't know how many other detailed, unique characters there's going to be. But I am very confident that they will make a figure, and that day I'm going to plan something very special because to me, I think every Star Wars fan would understand how much of a dream that would be. And more importantly, I also just want to thank the people that have already taken the initiative, and they've gone and already made me a 6-inch Black Series figure, and they've made me a Pop Funko just as an honor, just in sort of their gratitude and appreciation for my friendship and also for my character. I can't tell you how much that means to me.
Well, I'm going to be bringing something. I got something special planned for you in January. I think you're going to like it. But I'm just going to tell you what it is.
Thank you, Clint.
Okay. Natalie Lucia said that costumes often influence an actor's portrayal of a character, and she wants to know how your character's appearance informed your performance.
Yeah, without question. They initially, before I went on set, they almost didn't go with Richard A. Porra designed the costume, and they almost did not go with the face mask. And for me, when you think of bounty hunter, I wanted it intense and posing. I'm 6'4", 255 pounds, the same frame as a Kane Hodder who played Jason in 7, 8, 9, and 10. So it's a very, very imposing big figure. For me, as much as I think many Star Wars fans might split the difference to where they say, hey, you know what, I want my whole face to be seen. I like the makeup, but I really felt that the face mask made the intensity, the unapologetic attitude in terms of whether it's a woman or a child, whatever it is, this bounty hunter GEKKO, in my opinion, would stop at nothing for the money. There is no sort of warm heart to where maybe he plays a protagonist in one way or another. So for me, the face mask that Richard A. Porra attached to me really, really defined my character. Also, I wanted a big blaster due to my size, an imposing size, so that when I was seen on screen, you would have, a larger than life kind of appeal. I think a bandolier, it goes hand in hand with the Star Wars universe. And to have that added with black gloves and then also these forearm shields, when you see the detail of these forearm shields, it should be hopefully in a few shots here and there, that kind of added to the whole Star Wars lore. So I was able to just kind of encompass this imposing, unapologetic bounty hunter that I don't think, Dengar, Bosk, except with the exception of IG-88, I think I'm technically one of the tallest bounty hunters. So I think that's kind of a cool thing.
Bosk, the guy has less screen time than Boba Fett, and he's still a fan favorite. So I think you're in the running for that. Don't worry about it.
I'm praying. Hope, fingers crossed. And like I said, I can't appreciate the fans. Enough. One of the things I wanted to offer, I have people coming to me. Of course, we have to pay for the merchandise, so I need to make that back. But if it's something where it's a simple email of saying, "Hey Dom, I've got a friend in the hospital, or I got a child, it's his birthday, or he's getting ready for a baseball game. Can you send me a quick video?" Please go ahead and send them my way. And I'm 100% with this. I'm happy to go ahead and cheer up somebody's day in that regard. As far as the merchandise, unfortunately, I do have to charge for that. But as far as just a simple video call or an audio, for me, if it takes 1 minute to make someone happy, I'm right there for all the Star Wars fans.
All right. Let's see here. Are you a big Star Wars reader?
I read that prequel to Rogue One, and I remember when I was a kid, there was something vague in regards to Han and Leia having twin Jedi boys. Other than that, no. I just started getting into the Clone Wars with my son, so we're watching that, and we watched a little bit of season 1 of Rebels, so I'm kind of getting into that. We have played a few of the video games. I want to try out the new video game coming out. I think it's either this month or next month. But no, not as far as the books and the lore. But I will say this: I am really excited to see the fan fiction. If they include my character as part of the Bounty Hunters Guild, that would really be something that would be very special to me and my family. If any of the writers, the major writers, included my character or a little paragraph or a chapter in my whole journey, that would be really special.
Well, there you go, Jared Green. He wanted to know, uh, what your favorite Star Wars Legends book or trilogies were. It sounds like you've read some of the Legend stuff, but
Yeah,
that's good.
yeah,
Audible,
yeah,
Audible. Is for me. That's the way to go. I mean,
yeah.
I just finished the Aftermath trilogy, and actually the performances on Audible. Have you ever thought about doing that? Those
Uh,
those
oh,
are really good.
sure, sure, without question. It's funny because somebody asked me in regards to do I speak English? Does my character speak English? And I love Jabba's language. Whatever that language is, and especially what's that little ball that pops out and protrudes out of his palace?
Yeah,
It's a
it's like a
very
century thing. Yeah.
yeah, it's a deeper voice, and for me, I would love to kind of have that voice to my character. I think it would be more mysterious to not have him speak English, but to perhaps if you can adjust it to a translation in English. But I would love to just see it in that Jabba language. I think that would be really special to make my character a little bit more mysterious there.
And it would make sense too
Yeah,
within because you guys are obviously. I mean, I'm not giving anything away here. I think Favreau's even said you guys are taking place in the Outer Rim territories where
right.
the Hutts have a huge influence, anyways. And so speaking Huttese would be like speaking English in California. I mean, yeah,
Correct.
Spanish or some other, but that's the lingua franca there. So
Yes.
Christopher Kerr is interested in knowing how you would describe your character and the relationship between your character and the Mandalorian. Now, I know you can't get into too much, but maybe how your character sees the Mandalorian.
I would see, and you can see it briefly in the trailer where you see that shot of me. I mean, we're looking at him for a reason, and we're looking at him because he is the belle of the ball, and he is one of the best in the galaxy. So, bitterness, jealousy, anger, and hatred, and nothing more. There is no sympathy whatsoever. There is a level of competition amongst the bounty hunters. This is not a team effort. This is not a diplomatic mission to Alderaan. We are out for our own. We are out for our own money. And if somebody is better looking than you, and somebody is stronger than you, and you are under the bounty hunter mindset, that's not a good thing. This is not the real world to where, and it could be the real world where people are envious of people in that regard. But my bounty hunter, in my opinion, would stop at nothing in terms of being able to get that bounty. And anyone who got in the way or anyone who is better than me, I would have a tremendous amount of disdain for. And you might see that play out.
Okay. All right. Oh man, I'm just picturing that, because Pedro Pascal's a pretty, he's got that Han Solo swagger to him. I mean, I
Hmm.
don't, you watch him in Narcos, and
Hmm.
the dude's a badass. So
Yeah.
good luck with you on that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Stay tuned. That's all I can say.
All right. Ernst Jan van Leeuwen, and I hope I pronounced that right, asks what I can only guess is a hypothetical slash backstory question. Why wasn't GEKKO contracted by Lord Vader to find the Millennium Falcon? I love that.
It's funny you bring that up because what I'm really excited for is actually what might have preceded this series. And the one thing that I'm really excited about is perhaps the contracting of finding Luke. So we don't know. Obviously, I'm looking at maybe a 1% chance.
Ooh,
But perhaps if this
shippers.
character becomes popular, and if the Kenobi series is based on Obi-Wan protecting Luke, and you got to imagine that there was a handful of bounty hunters that were out to get Luke. That is where I would like to believe GEKKO was in terms of trying to pursue Luke, and hopefully that will play out. But that is
Wow.
my answer to that. That and again, you're looking at a very big galaxy too. I mean, I'm sure there's a
Yeah.
good handful of bounty hunters, so we were not there. But personally, I would like to see the focus and the main storyline to being trying to get Luke and perhaps being overtaken by Obi-Wan in one way or another, or not being able to defeat Obi-Wan. That would be very special for me.
Uh, yeah. Wow. I got goosebumps. Um, Dylan Wetch wants to know about your bounty hunter's tools of the trade. You kind of alluded to your blaster being
Yep.
big and imposing, and it's got a sharp, blade attached to it. It's got the canister could probably be used as a bludgeon.
Yeah.
I'm sure you, in your mind, while you were standing there looking at George Lucas and waiting for something to go on, I'm sure in your mind you're thinking about all that stuff that you're wearing because you talked about the bandolier and stuff. Did you develop a backstory in your head,
Yeah.
or?
Sure. I mean, I think if you look at that paintball canister, it's just how much blaster power it can carry, along with my bandolier of how much each piece can carry in terms of the energy and the power that it can use to reload that blaster. You also have the arm guards. So for the hand-to-hand combat with the dagger at the bottom of the semi-automatic, combined with the forearm guards, I think he'd be really handy in terms of with hand-to-hand combat, which makes him very special. Not to mention, again, the imposing size. At the same time, you may or may not see that blaster in action. So I would like to believe that we're going to have some very serious blaster power in one of the scenes, so you can actually see the magic of it and what my go-to in terms of protecting myself as well as getting the bounty that I need.
Yeah, I then there's the fact that you're probably 6'4" and you're probably wearing at least 1 inch heels. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that's gonna be. I mean, wow, that's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
Um, let's see here. Jared Carr says, Dominic Pace, what was it like to become a Star Wars character, and how was it to be around such talented actors such as yourself? Thank you for taking the time to answer my question. He's so polite. That was nice.
Again, I mean, and I'm not bragging at all, but I've been on television a multitude of times, multiple times, and I actually, again, the fact that this week, normally I would be so excited about my guest star tomorrow night on Fox opposite Ronda Rousey. I mean, how amazing is that?
Yeah.
I just being a lifelong Star Wars fan, and as much as I love modern crime dramas, and I played that throughout the course of my career. My first guest star was on NYPD Blue back in 2003. Um, I'm sure every Star Wars fan can relate that, yeah, sure, we all love a good episode of Law and Order. I've been on 5, 6 different investigation discovery channels where I've been like the lead detective and such. Nothing compares. Again, I mean, when you talk about the magic of the 80s, and those who might be younger may not be able to understand, but just those movies were so embedded in our hearts and our souls. I mean, those characters we knew back and forth. I'm actually a fan of movie locations. I will specifically sometimes visit. I've been up to Oregon. I've been up to Astoria and Cannon Beach because I just wanted to relive my childhood of how special that was. But
Yeah.
most importantly, even with Star Wars, people have gone on these treks to Tunisia or to Yuma or to Death Valley to be amongst something that has been so special to us. So I just can't tell you what an honor it is. And you're talking about, again, just only a few episodes being featured. And to go on and on about this in terms of this whole campaign, that's how special this is for me. So yeah, I'm just beyond words. And again, to be with the A-list group, to be in the major leagues, and again, in our beloved franchise, I can't tell you how much I embrace it. And on top of that, it's not just only within my words, it's going to be throughout my actions over the next year or two in regards to paying it forward to other Star Wars fans and other people in need, to just show my appreciation of how amazing this opportunity has been.
Yeah, and you're gonna find that by and large, that the vast majority of the people in the Star Wars fan, we know that there are some a vocal minority that I don't think they could ever be made happy, but the vast majority of what I call the
Yes.
real fans embrace each other. They embrace the diversity. They embrace, because that's what George Lucas was creating. He was creating a fairy tale, and it's
Yeah.
it's just I can't tell you how cool I think it must be to be you right now.
Yeah, thank you. And that's what we're going back to. Is just, I don't like to, just like with politics and social issues, I try to avoid, only
Well,
because, again, you bring up a good point in regards to just the innocence of the universe that he's created. And for me, that's all I'm looking at now. I mean, storyline is always subjective, and of course you're going to have all that negativity. But ultimately, again, we're just taking it back. I'm looking right now at my 6 original Bounty Hunter figures in my glass case, and to me, that's what made it so special and what made it so amazing. So, yeah, it's a dream come true, and all good things. And like I said, all this good love and good energy. We're going to be paying forward for hopefully many years to come at several conventions, multiple conventions throughout the world.
Oh yeah, you're gonna be busy. Trust me.
I'm excited. I love traveling. I love traveling. I love new food. Like I said, I can't say enough about San Francisco, but all the different places to try a beer in Belgium and to try, whatever bangers and mash, over in London there. I mean, it's going to be very special, and so many obviously great things to look forward to in so many ways.
All right. Josh Whitman asks, what were your influences for your character? You talked a little bit about this already. So, I mean, we don't have to retread it, but,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
I mean, again, I don't see this bounty hunter having one bit of empathy at all. And there will be a certain situation to where you might see that in the show. I don't see any. This is one where there is going to be zero. I don't know if I don't think in the comics they're going to make anything similar to Mandalorian where there might be a side of empathy or something to where he's a bit of a protagonist. This may be somebody that you do not like. I don't think that he again is going to he won't stop at anything to be able to get whatever bounty that he wants to get. That's what was in my mind, and again the scenarios that were presented to me as well as the jealousy within that cantina, those certain situations, he's out for his own, and that's the end of the story. It's very sort of Jason like, very one dimensional in that regard, to where there is zero sympathy in any way shape or form. No matter what the bounty is, he's going to get it.
I mean, he is a GEKKO, so maybe he's mainly more amygdala than he is, frontal cortex. Maybe that's not a character flaw in him. Maybe that's just part of the way his brain is wired. I mean,
That's
and
yeah.
bad guys are always more popular than the good guys. So
Yeah. No, we're excited. I mean, it's I think even as an actor, it's just again, I star in this movie called Anonymous Killers. There is something more enjoyable in regards to playing these flawed villainous type characters as opposed to just straight up being sort of negative and stuff. So yeah,
it's the whole reason I play GTA 5.
yeah,
We got
yeah.
time
So
for one last question, and it comes from Roberto D'Italia.
hmm
Basically, given the double-edged sword and of being known for a particular character and the concerns many actors have to not be typecast based on one prominent role they've played, how do you view the fact that from now on you will forever be known as GEKKO on the
I
Mandalorian?
This is so interesting because it's so funny. I was on set. I was working on a new show with Joey Fatone of all people, and one of the stars. He's this big giant of a man. He's one of the supporting characters in Agents of Shield, and he was talking to me in regards to this, and I'm like, I'm just hearing him talk. But honestly, again, being such a Star Wars fan, I am all in on GEKKO. People ask me if, as a matter of fact, the makeup artist reached out to perhaps portray another character just because he really enjoyed working with me. I actually get upset when I see, sometimes a character, say in the Marvel universe, play one character and the other. If this was just it for me, and to be able to brand this character, I can't tell you how grateful I am. It's going to lead to a tremendous amount of opportunities. As I said, as much as I love playing the cops and the guards, I have another guest star coming up on a show called Deputy on Fox. The shows I don't think are really going to worry about me being typecast. They get concerned when you're one of the stars of the show, but as far as just being all in with GEKKO, I want to make that true for the fans, and I think fans love that clarity to where you are identified as that person. Sometimes, no offense to some of these Comic-Con people, where obviously they've got about 7 different characters up on their billboard, but for me, I think there's something really special about just being GEKKO the Bounty Hunter that will hopefully be able to will brand over the next couple of years and embrace it 110%. I am such a diehard Star Wars fan, and right there on board with all the fans and collectors.
Well, hey, I really appreciate you taking your time. I know you've got other engagements that you need to get to. That's
Mm-hmm.
all I have for you today. But now I hope maybe a few weeks down the road we can touch base for a follow-up after the show's aired.
Absolutely. I'd love to talk about once these screenshots come in. I'd love to talk about that and see what everybody thinks, and be able to connect with the fan base after that, because then I can talk about everything and the entire experience there. So I would be honored, Clint. Thank you so much.
Hey, not a problem. And you know, like I said, I can tell everybody, folks, this guy is a class act. I've never seen anybody so eager to interact with the fans. I was like going, wait, don't answer the question. Let me save it. So you're a class act, Dominic,
Thank you.
and I look forward to becoming more familiar with you. I know our paths are going to cross in Stockton, possibly going to cross in August at Celebration, or at least in LA around the time of Celebration.
Yes.
And I really appreciate you taking the time to do this with me today.
It's my pleasure, and again, thank you to all the fans for all their support of this side character. It just means the world to me. Again, just to have this opportunity and to be there for the fans in such a positive way over the next so many years.